Hello, and welcome to The Progressive Perspective with Ron Rivers. In this episode, we'll discuss why breaking up large technology monopolies is an old solution to a new problem. The argument presented herein is a critique of the Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders plan to break off aspects of large tech monopolies into public utilities. While I agree with the intent of their proposal, I believe there are aspects that have been overlooked, and therefore I will argue three reasons why I believe breaking up the companies is not the ideal solution. I'll also present an alternative set of solutions that I believe would be a more beneficial way forward. Thank you for listening to The Progressive Perspective. Progressive frontrunners Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren have both committed to the monopoly busting of big tech giants like Amazon, Google, and Facebook. It's a progressive vision drawing inspiration from the breakup of AT&T, Standard Oil, and JP Morgan. But breaking up big tech is an entirely different obstacle than breaking up the communications, energy, and old finance monopolies of 100 years ago. It's an old solution to a new problem, and we can do better. The first problem with breaking up big tech is that it's not going to work. Warren's argument connects the big tech firms to the past monopolies in their dominance of networks. And while the comparison is accurate, it fails to capture the real nature of monopolistic tech companies. It's correct because all of the mentioned organizations have distinct network monopolies. And as Warren explains, nearly half of all internet sales go through Amazon, and more than 70% of all internet traffic goes through assets owned by Google, really Alphabet, or Facebook. These organizations rely both on investment in research and development and consuming innovators to expand their dominance and insulate themselves against competition. It's fair to compare them to the companies of the Gilded Age in their reach and market dominance. Where the plan falls short is the conclusion that past measures will solve present problems. The big tech firms are fundamentally different organizations than the old monopolies. And I'll support my claim by presenting three reasons why the previous statement is true and share ideas about a better path forward. The first problem is physical versus virtual networks. They're just two different things. AT&T has historically had the choice of acting within its existing telecommunications infrastructure or financing new infrastructure to expand their business. Standard Oil's resource extraction required locations that had energy resources to operate, right? They had to draw up oil from the earth. Splitting up these organizations meant carving out the existing territories that would create clear boundaries of operation for the resulting spin-offs. So for example, if they broke up Standard Oil, you only have X amount of oil fields that they've tapped, so that split would result in two companies owning two separate oil fields. But if we compare that to the virtual network powers of Facebook, Google, and Amazon, excluding the possibility of an expanded Google fiber network, the physical infrastructure of the Gilded Age companies far surpasses the footprint of existing tech giants. Big tech organizations are only encumbered by server farms and administrative buildings. Their products and services extend beyond a limited geographic infrastructure. So the first challenge to breaking up these organizations is that, as per Warren's plan, forcing these companies to spin off their assets into platform utilities is less restraining than it sounds. Facebook's platform, Amazon's marketplace, and Google's traffic assets can operate from anywhere in the world. Breaking them up is inconvenient and costly, but it really does nothing to actually stem their monopolistic potential and encourage competition. The spin-off utility still exercises network monopoly, and despite a redirection of profit incentive, these new organizations will hold dominance of the networks and their potential. The second problem is the transferability of assets and wealth creation. In spinning off sections of these big tech firms into regulated independent organizations, we encounter a separate but similar challenge presented in the first problem, which is that big tech firms can have virtual products that in many respects can be recreated and redesigned to work around and escape regulations rapidly when compared to the monopolies of the Gilded Age. In what direction these redesigns may take shape is still to be determined, right? I don't know that. But based on their history of aggressive expansion and market dominance, it's unlikely that we're going to stifle big tech by breaking up virtual assets. We can imagine new products with similar functions that escape the boundaries of regulation, the sale of assets to a separate but likely linked organization, and then numerous backdoors built into spin-off products that may quote-unquote accidentally leak information that could be used for profitable purposes in the future. If we compare that to physical assets, virtual assets are significantly more flexible in their ability to change direction. How do you restrain something flexible by design? It's unrealistic for us to believe that spinning off virtual assets will have the same restraining impact on big tech firms as the spin-off of physical assets had on past monopolies. Again, we highlight why breaking up the companies is an old solution to new problems. The third problem is we are entering a new type of economy. Breaking up the big tech firm lays the framework for dealing with tech monopolies, but omits the fact that companies are becoming monopolies more and more frequently and more rapidly due to the changing nature of our economy. This trend is only going to continue to accelerate as technologies advance. Firms, for example, like Google and Amazon and Facebook, all operate within the new knowledge economy. And essentially what that means is they utilize highly skilled labor that's highly transferable and allows them to keep pulling in new and innovative talent continuously. But besides that, research and development is a central aspect of their business model. So they consistently challenge and change their directions and offerings as innovations redefine the possible. Essentially, the constant pushing the boundary forward is part of their business model. So not only do they get to monopoly faster, but they can retain monopoly stronger. They can also generate the most efficient returns on inputs invested, fueling new expansion and growth consistently. Now compare the above to former monopolies that operated within an economy where manufacturing was the most advanced form of production. Innovation happened slowly, and when it did, it was a long, drawn-out process to retrofit all the existing infrastructures to support it. The primary difference being that big tech firms have challenge and change encoded into their very structure. New tech startups typically start and share a similar aim. It's called being a unicorn, right? And that means being a unicorn is about reaching $1 billion valuation. Now, it's a big goal and it requires a lot of planning, a lot of action, and a lot of luck to achieve, but it is achievable. In the process, these organizations become monopolies in their very niche verticals. And this is the new reality of tech startups. Monopolization is going to occur consistently and more frequently as we move forward because the nature of innovation has become niche-centric. This rapid monopolization has significant consequences for innovation, which is why it's essential to get the right solution from the start. Because these firms can consistently reinvent themselves and acquire potential competitors, they develop innovations in both technology and process that stay confined to those organizations through legal protection, right, intellectual property. A progressive plan recognizes that part of the purpose of breaking up monopolies is to free that innovative potential from the grasp of the monolith and give it to the society that can benefit most from it. The weakness of breaking up tech monopolies is that we find ourselves perpetually catching up to grievances instead of proactively addressing them. It's a well-intentioned solution that falls short of its intended goals. So let's begin to explore new solutions for new problems. Warren and Sanders are right to say that big tech firms need a deeper level of social responsibility. They are incorrect in their proposals, which are a substitution instead of like a real solution. Recognizing the shortfalls of breaking their assets up, we can now examine an alternative solution that may better achieve our desired results. A progressive solution to this present and future problem is to reshape the institutional arrangements of our market economy. Our objective is to give more people more access to more resources and more opportunities. Instead of breaking up big tech firms with distinct network and market monopolies, we should incorporate a tiered degree of socialization into them depending on their power. This solution presents unique advantages unavailable to us in the asset spin-off plan, which is why I believe we should strongly consider it. Using metrics similar to those laid out in Warren's plan, we could set income tiers that, when triggered, would enact new sets of legal responsibilities and arrangements for corporations. To keep it simple, we can imagine tiers A, B, and C ranging with A ranging from the smallest and C being the largest. An A-tier corporation can be required to have a certain percentage of their board be turned over to public control. That percentage could be determined democratically. A term-limited, rotating citizen board comprised of individuals with relevant niche experience acting on behalf of the general public. Right? So they're essentially there to ensure that companies are acting in good faith to the public and working towards projects that will advance the public good. A-tier organizations would be required to extend credit in the form of access to logistical, technological, and process innovations to new startups within their vertical. Imagine a new startup organization working on a breakthrough medical equipment, gaining access to one of the most advanced medical device manufacturers, technology, procedure, and people. I mean, A-tier organizations become integrated into our society as engines to help maximize our innovative potential in different directions, while still maintaining their existing profit structures. So the owners, the employees, the board, the shareholders, they're all still profiting the same, but they are now responsible for helping new organizations innovate as well in different directions. We can take it a step further, and organizations that achieve B-tier milestones based on revenue and income gain new responsibilities in addition to the A-tier requirements. Upon meeting the B-tier, firms have a percentage of their citizen board increased, but still maintain the existing profit structure model. So at this point, their revenues are still privatized. They just have more corporate or social responsibility in terms of the board and social responsibility. B-tier firms also become vital educational institutions under our more progressive approach. As we journey deeper into the knowledge economy here in the United States, continuous training and education become more critical for every individual. Innovation and disruption will continue their existing trend of increasing rapid expansion. So in the face of this challenge of everyone losing their jobs repeatedly, we recognize that a person's ability to change the direction of their life as seamlessly as possible elevates itself to become essentially a new human right. I mean, the alternative is just constant unemployment. Now, we can address this problem by requiring B-tier institutions to develop and maintain training programs for the general public. These programs are provided for free and would range from an entry level to advanced industry practices and knowledge. In essence, our best companies become our best schools. Here we create a progressive solution that actually pays dividends to society beyond just stifling monopolization with the hopes of market correction. These suggestions help our cultural approach to education and from a hierarchy maintained by socioeconomic status to a broad approach founded on the belief of the infinite potential of every individual who has access to necessary resources to succeed. It's an essential investment in ourselves and will help insulate us against the inevitable economic downturns caused by the skill gaps needed to transition into a knowledge economy. Essentially what I'm saying is that as we transition to this new type of work, the current workforce simply cannot fill the needs. So we need to have a structure built into society to help them retrain on new and innovative verticals. Now, with the C-tier organizations, these are people who have reached the highest wealth tier, highest income tier. Their profit distribution becomes changed. At this level of organization, the companies have become institutions for society. We could use Google, Amazon, and Facebook all as examples of C-tier organizations under the new plan. Essentially, these C-tier organizations inherit all the responsibilities of A and B-tier organizations, but again, we increase their citizen board members, and now a percentage of their net profits become dedicated to investment in democratically chosen social projects. When organizations monopolize a market vertical, they become considered a staple of society. So too do they gain the responsibilities for giving back to the public that helped elevate them. You can imagine, for example, Amazon's market network like we talked about before, or Google and Facebook's content network. These are essentially totally integrated into society and eliminate competition from even attempting to innovate, which is why we consider them institutions. Now, critics of the C-tier plan may claim that this would diminish innovative incentive, but that's false. It's a common criticism with no actual evidence to support it first. Second, the founders who do not sell or exit before reaching C-tier wealth levels will have already acquired capital and wealth beyond comparison to the average American. Our progressive approach is a recognition that the nature of business and innovation is changing. And that's why a proactive approach and a proactive solutions to prevent oppressive and dishonest practices in the name of profits is so important. That's why this socialization matters. Breaking up big tech is an attempt to stifle their stranglehold on industry, but in reality will only serve as an inconvenience to these organizations. So it's an attempt to allow more market competition and innovation that is ill-equipped to address the reality of our present markets. Of course, we're referring to the current Warren and Sanders plan. A more progressive approach of deepened social responsibility, as outlined above, takes the power of these organizations and redirects it to the innovative potential of the public. It's a proactive solution for a new problem that will create genuine and profound change in the way companies and innovators organize and work in the future. Instead of just attempting to slow these mega firms, we raise the floor of innovation and opportunity for the majority of the Americans they serve.